You turn my mourning into dancing. You turn my mourning into dancing. 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. Oh, there's something about your love. Something about your love changes everything in my body. Oh, something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. You turn my mourning into dancing. 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 Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything.
Good morning, Rooted Men. It's great to be with you this morning. Matt Ryan, for those who might not know me, although I suspect most of you do. It's another beautiful morning. Here we are in spring and turning into summer, and of course this weekend marks the unofficial start of summer, and what a time to be alive in God's world. What a time to be able to observe the rebirth and the growth and the happiness and the warmth, and but I hope that this morning finds you encouraged and excited to take on a day. Maybe you've got something to look forward to this weekend, or maybe you don't. Maybe your Memorial Day is going to be quiet, or maybe it's going to be noisy and filled with family and barbecues and lake time or camping or who knows what. Whatever it is, I hope that this time is some good time for you to reflect going into it, and that you're able to spend some time all weekend reflecting on the gifts that God gives you. We'd be certainly remiss not to mention the fact that the gift of our freedom, the gift of the peace that we're able to live in the relatively insane riches we're able to live in, the wealth that we often forget about, the freedom from a lot of persecution that we often forget about and take for granted, that of course we spend this weekend remembering and thanking those who paid the ultimate sacrifice, that we may continue to have that political freedom, that freedom that Christ gives us in our heart and over our lives in the kingdom that matters, reflected here in this temporary kingdom. So I hope that Memorial Day is as for many of you as it is for me, an opportunity to solemnly reflect, to really center ourselves on gratitude. Oftentimes the weather this weekend, it makes us happy to be in Michigan again, so it's an easy easy thing to be to have gratitude about. But I just hope that that's what the thrust of this weekend is for you, whether you're spending it with loved ones, or whoever's close to you, or you're going to spend some solemn time, go to a parade, go to a memorial, go to a cemetery, whatever it is, just that there's time to reflect. It's such an important thing. Anyway, we're getting back into the reading, back into Proverbs, and we've been studying so much about this contrast between the righteous and the wicked. And boy, it's deep. When Solomon asked for wisdom, who knows if he knew what he was in for? He knew what all he was looking at. But the way that he was able to write it out for us has so much life in it today. It's one of those, it's this old part of the Bible, right? It's the Old Testament. We tend to think of it as a bygone era, but boy, this study sure does prove how living and breathing it is with us every day. So we start at verse 16, which says, the wages of righteousness is life, but the earnings of the wicked are sin and death. So wages here, right? We tend to turn that word wage, we associate it with money. We associate it with what we're paid because that's the way our world uses it. But I think more accurately understood, it would be a natural consequence, right? The consequence that flows out of your action is the wage for your action. Especially the way that we have juxtaposed here, the wage of the righteous and the earnings of the wicked, right? Earnings is really this sense of you're getting out what you put in, right? The reap what you sow idea. When you put in wicked, the payment for that, right? It really is sin and death. And so think of wage as meaning more of a natural consequence. Like lighting a match, right? The wage of lighting a match would be fire, or to blow it out, the wage would be smoke, right? The natural thing that's going to lead from it. And so we look at this full and significant life that's given to the righteous. The wage is life itself. It doesn't need flowery terms. It doesn't need a bunch else. It's life versus death, right? Nothing more clear than that. And of course, Jesus said, I came that you may have life and have it abundantly. And so it's very clear to us, goes without saying, which side of the equation we want to be on. But, so Jesus, by dying, of course, for what we've earned, right? Because we are kind of inherently wicked. I don't know, maybe that's too strong. Obviously inherently sinful. But the opportunity to be viewed as righteous through the sanctification, through the death and resurrection of Christ is something we cannot forget. It's such a huge deal. I don't want to get caught up too much in one verse, so sorry, I'm clicking on my screen here to make sure I've got the right verse up. So the next verse says, one who is on the path of life follows instruction, but one who ignores and rebukes it goes astray. In the NIV version, it's a little simpler. It says, whoever heeds discipline shows the way to life, but whoever ignores correction leads others astray. So there really is that idea that the wolf in sheep's clothing, right? There may be people leading others astray, even within the church, even people who are looking good. That whole sense of wickedness consumes everything we have. And when the heart is wicked, everything that flows out of it's going to be wicked. And so listening to godly advice, of course, better likelihood of success and longevity, but of course it's not a guarantee, right? We often see in life people who seem to be very good struggling mightily and deeply with things, and some people who might not seem to be as high on the goodness scale, who might be people we would say aren't necessarily on the path to heaven, might do really well in this world, and that is, it's hard to reconcile. But of course, this is not the life we're building for. So it's quite something. This comparison here is so interesting. So, one who conceals hatred has lying lips, and one who spreads slander is a fool. Again, the fool's talked about so much throughout Proverbs. But here we're starting to talk about words, the power of words, the power of our tongue, right? Hatred is something that can live inside, and it can really be a grievous sin, right? It's, in fact, the opposite of love, which is the virtue we're called to live by and the whole basis of life itself. But a natural kind of aspect, right, the wage of hate is the willingness to use lies or deception, to manipulate. And that's really what we're getting at here. The lying lips, right? We conceal hatred by manipulating the truth. And we spread slander, right? Talking about other people, gossiping. When there are many words, wrongdoing is unavoidable, but one who restrains his lips is wise. Or in the NIV, sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent hold their tongue. So again, we're in this idea of the tongue and the power of it. It's small, but it's mighty. From the same mouth flows blessings and curses, right? The idea being what's coming out of your mouth is really a reflection of our heart and our spirit, right? That hits a little closer to home. And so we talk a lot about, the fruit of the Spirit and self-control, and especially controlling one's tongue is one of those things that we need to focus on so much, because it's so natural to want to get, whether it's vengeance or righteousness or justify ourselves, or someone deserves to get a tongue lashing. It never works out. It never seems to bring about anything positive. But the prudent hold their tongues. This isn't to say to always be silent, but know when to stop talking. Not necessarily don't talk, but know that there's a time to talk and a time not to. The tongue of righteous is like choice silver, but the heart of the wicked is of little value. Again, we've seen this comparison several times to choice gold and silver and these things that have this value because we look at them and think they're beautiful and we assign value to them. But the words of the righteous, the truth, the being unafraid to be rooted in truth and speak it over someone, those are so highly valuable, right? And obviously the other is not. One thing I want to make sure I touch on is we talk so much about the righteous man versus the wicked man, but what you notice is there is no neutral. There is no in between. Man is either the righteous man or the wicked man, and we get that choice of which one we're going to be each day. And I know you're with me on this journey of choosing to be the righteous man, but it is a call to action. It's not a call to be neutral, to be lukewarm, and to be in the middle. And of course, in our work, right, whatever it is that we labor toward, and that doesn't necessarily mean a vocation, it doesn't mean we're going to a job every day, but whatever our work is that we're, intentional in, there's this kind of split, right? So much theology gets caught up in works and earning things. And what we're really talking about here is we're comparing all the parts of the righteous man are, consistently compared to fruit. And what do we know about fruit, right? When the tree's planted by good soil, the fruit bears in time. When we are submitted to Christ and our life is living in a relationship with Christ, the fruits of the Spirit blossom and bloom in time. When we're connected to the branch or to the vine, we're the branch, right? So many, fruit is such a common thing, but because it's so relatable. But the difference between work and fruit, right, is that intentionality piece. Fruit is going to happen. It's going to blossom. You can't force it to grow. Whereas in a works theology, it's all about what you do. You can earn it. You can do. And I just want to make sure we're keeping it in that right perspective as we study these things, as we compare the righteous and the wicked. That what we're really trying to do is submit ourselves, surrender ourselves to the life that God wants us to live, to the life that Jesus came to teach us about living. And then is when the fruit comes. So I hope that's encouraging to you today. Again, I hope there's time to reflect this weekend, but also time to be fruitful, time to be intentional and go out and live, not to be neutral or to be lukewarm, to avoid wickedness, to run from it, and run toward righteousness. I hope this lifts you up. Men, have a great day. Make it a firmly rooted day. And may someone see Jesus in us today.